In the heart of an untouched forest that blankets the outskirts of a small, seemingly peaceful town, Clara stepped out of her car, her boots crunching softly against the gravel road. This town, nestled away from the bustling cities and crowded places, held an allure for those who sought silence. Yet beneath its serene exterior, whispered tales of darkness and mystery wove through the lives of its residents like a persistent fog. Clara, with her keen eye for the untold stories and a relentless drive to uncover the truth, had stumbled upon a legend that gripped her curiosity like none before. The woman in white, as the townsfolk hesitantly spoke of, was a specter that haunted the edges of their reality and dreams. A bride, betrayed and murdered on the very night she was to start a new chapter of love and companionship, now wandered the town and its surrounding forests, trapped in a limbo of sorrow and vengeance. The air was heavy with the onset of dusk as Clara made her way towards the local inn, the only establishment that offered a semblance of hospitality to outsiders. The town, with its aging structures and cobbled streets, seemed to whisper secrets of the past with every step she took. It was here, in this place, where time seemed to stand still, that Clara hoped to peel away the layers of myth and uncover the truth behind the legend of the woman in white. As she settled into the modest room the inn provided, Clara couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The stories had taken root in her mind, creating an anticipation for the unknown. The night ahead promised to be long, filled with research and the piecing together of a tale so entwined with grief and mystery. The legend of the woman in white was not just a ghost story to Clara, it was a puzzle that beckoned to be solved. Little did she know her pursuit of the truth would lead her down a path where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred, and the horrors of the past would emerge from the shadows to claim the present. The next morning greeted Clara with a thick mist that veiled the town, lending an eerie atmosphere that seemed almost too fitting for her quest. After a brief breakfast, she set out with her notebook and camera, determined to unravel the legend of the woman in white. Her first stop was the local library, a venerable building that held the memories of the town within its aged walls and countless archives. As Clara pushed open the heavy wooden door, the musty scent of old paper and whispers of bygone eras enveloped her. The librarian, a stooped elderly man with spectacles perched precariously on his nose, watched her with mild curiosity as she approached. "I'm researching the local legend," Clara began, "about the woman in white. I was hoping to find historical records or newspaper clippings that might shed some light on her story." The librarian's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition, or was it fear, passing through them. "Ah, yes, the White Lady, as some call her. Follow me," he said, leading her through a labyrinth of bookshelves to a secluded section of the library. There, among the dusty tomes and brittle newspapers, Clara found the heart of the legend. The earliest account dated back over a century, detailing the tragic tale of a young bride named Eliza, who was found dead in the forest on the night of her wedding, dressed in her white gown, her heart pierced by a dagger. The story went that her fiancé, driven mad with jealousy over a baseless suspicion of her faithfulness, had murdered her in a fit of rage. As Clara pored over the articles, more pieces of the legend came to light. Witnesses over the years reported seeing a ghostly figure in white wandering near the forest's edge, her face obscured by a veil, and her eyes filled with an endless sorrow. Some claimed to hear her weeping in the dead of night, a mournful sound that chilled the blood of even the most skeptical. Determined to dig deeper, Clara visited the town's oldest residents, those who had lived long enough to gather their own tales of the woman in white. Each account added layers to the legend, painting a picture of a spirit unable to find peace, forever searching for justice or perhaps redemption. One elderly woman, her hands trembling as she spoke, recounted a night when she was a young girl. She had seen the woman in white standing at the foot of her bed, pointing towards the forest, before vanishing into thin air. "She's not just a ghost," the woman whispered. "She's a warning, a reminder of the sins our town carries. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the town, Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. The stories she had gathered painted a vivid picture of a restless soul, wronged and vengeful, haunting the place of her demise. Yet, amid the fear and superstition, Clara sensed a deep sadness woven into the fabric of the legend, a tragedy that echoed through time, resonating with the sorrow of the woman in white. That night, as Clara lay in her bed, the inn's walls seemed to creak ominously, as if echoing the whispers of the past. The legend had taken hold of her, its tendrils wrapping around her thoughts, pulling her deeper into its mystery. She knew that to uncover the truth, she would need to venture into the heart of the forest, to the very place where Eliza's life had been cruelly snatched away. The legend of the woman in white was more than just a ghost story. It was a wound that had never healed, a scar upon the town's memory. Clara realized that her quest was not just about satisfying her curiosity or uncovering a sensational story. It was about giving voice to the silenced, bringing to light the dark corners of the past that had been shrouded in fear and secrecy. As the clock struck midnight, a faint sound drifted through the air, a sorrowful melody that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Clara sat up, her heart racing. The haunting had begun. As the days passed, Clara's fascination with the woman in white evolved into a relentless obsession. Each night, the faint, sorrowful melodies seemed to grow closer, more insistent, as if beckoning her to delve deeper into the mystery. The boundary between her investigation and her personal life began to blur, the legend infiltrating her thoughts during the day and invading her dreams at night. Clara's days were consumed with visits to the forest's edge, where the veil between the natural and the supernatural seemed thinnest. Equipped with her camera, notebook, and an unwavering determination, she ventured into the dense underbrush, following the paths whispered about in legends, paths where the woman in white was said to roam. It was during one such exploration, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the trees, that Clara experienced her first unexplainable phenomenon. A sudden drop in temperature enveloped her, her breath visible in the air, despite the season's warmth. A white mist began to form in front of her, coalescing into the vague outline of a figure draped in white. Clara reached for her camera, heart pounding, but as quickly as it appeared, the apparition dissolved into the ether, leaving no evidence of its presence. Shaken but invigorated by the encounter, Clara's investigations took on a new intensity. She pored over historical records, seeking any connection between the legend and documented events in the town's past. Nights were spent in vigils at the forest's edge, recording devices at the ready, hoping to capture the voice of the woman in white or any clue that might lead to a breakthrough. The obsession was not without its consequences. Clara's health began to suffer from sleepless nights and days filled with frantic activity. Friends and colleagues expressed concern over her changing demeanor, the dark circles under her eyes, and her growing isolation. Yet, Clara could not, would not, pull herself away from the pull of the legend. It had become her sole focus, the key to unlocking a story that had remained hidden in the shadows for far too long. Her home, once a place of refuge and relaxation, now seemed to echo with the same eerie energy that permeated the forest. Objects would be misplaced, only to be found in locations Clara was certain she hadn't left them. Lights flickered without reason, and several times she awoke to the sensation of being watched, though no one was ever there. One evening, as Clara reviewed the recordings from her latest vigil, she heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper beneath the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Straining her ears, she increased the volume, and there it was, a voice, ethereal and sorrowful, repeating a single phrase, "Find me." The words ignited a fire within Clara. She interpreted them not as a plea for help, but as a challenge, a directive from the woman in white herself. The spirit was no longer just a subject of her investigation. She was a guide, leading Clara toward a truth that had been buried beneath layers of fear and superstition. Determined to heed the call, Clara prepared for what she felt was coming, a final confrontation with the woman in white. She gathered her research, her recordings, and most importantly, her courage. She planned to spend the night in the forest, at the heart of where the apparitions were most frequently sighted, to confront the spirit and demand answers. The night of the vigil arrived, cloaked in a darkness so dense it seemed to swallow the beam of Clara's flashlight whole. As she made her way to the clearing that had become the focus of her investigation, the forest around her was eerily silent, as if the natural world was holding its breath in anticipation. Clara set up her equipment, her camera trained on the spot where the mist had appeared to her before, her recorder on, capturing the silence that enveloped her. Hours passed, with nothing but the occasional rustle of wildlife to disturb the quiet. Just as doubt began to creep into her mind, a chill swept through the clearing, the now familiar precursor to the supernatural. The mist began to form, thicker and more defined than Clara had ever seen it. Heart racing, she stood her ground, camera poised. The mist solidified, the figure of the woman in white emerging from its depths, her features obscured by the veil but her presence unmistakable. Clara, overcome with a mix of fear and awe, found her voice. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" she demanded. The apparition moved closer, and Clara could feel the weight of its gaze upon her, a sorrow so profound it threatened to engulf her. Then the spirit spoke, her voice a whisper that seemed to resonate from within and all around. "The truth," was all she said before the image shattered like glass, dissolving into the night air, leaving Clara alone once more, but with a new resolve to uncover the mystery of the woman in white. The encounter in the forest marked a profound shift in Clara's journey. No longer was she an outsider looking in. She had become a part of the story, a living link to the legend that had consumed her. The spirit's haunting words, "the truth," echoed in her mind, a beacon guiding her through the darkness of mystery and superstition. In the days that followed, Clara redoubled her efforts, her investigation taking on a new urgency. She returned to the archives, digging deeper into the history of the town and its inhabitants, focusing on the time period around Eliza's death. It was a painstaking process, sifting through decades of records, looking for anything that might have been overlooked. Her breakthrough came unexpectedly, hidden among the faded pages of an old diary belonging to the town's doctor at the time. In it, he recounted the events surrounding Eliza's death with a level of detail that had been lost to time. The diary revealed a tale of forbidden love, betrayal, and a family's wrath that had set the stage for the tragedy. Eliza, it turned out, had been in love with a man deemed unsuitable by her family. Despite their efforts to keep them apart, Eliza and her lover planned to elope. On the night of their planned escape, Eliza's fiancé, driven by jealousy and a malicious tip, confronted them. In the ensuing altercation, Eliza was killed, her death made to look like the tragic outcome of a lover's quarrel gone wrong. But the diary contained more than just the truth about Eliza's death. It hinted at a curse cast upon the town by Eliza's mother, a woman well-versed in the old ways. Blaming the townsfolk for her daughter's death, she invoked a curse that the spirit of her daughter would forever haunt the town, a reminder of the injustice that had been done. Armed with this new information, Clara sought out the descendants of those involved in the tragedy. Many were reluctant to speak, the weight of their ancestors' sins a heavy burden. But as Clara shared what she had learned, some began to open up, adding their own pieces to the puzzle. Old letters were unearthed, and long-hidden truths came to light, painting a picture of a town caught in the grip of a century-old curse. The connection to her own ancestry that Clara had suspected was confirmed through these conversations. Her great-great-grandmother had been Eliza's closest friend, a witness to the love and the betrayal that had led to the tragedy. It was this connection, Clara realized, that had drawn the woman in white to her, a bridge across generations. With the full story of Eliza's death and the curse that followed unveiled, Clara knew what she had to do. The legend of the woman in white was not just a ghost story, it was a call for justice, a plea for the truth to be acknowledged. Clara decided to write a comprehensive account of her findings, intending to publish it, in the hope that acknowledgement of the past might appease Eliza's spirit. The night before her article was to be published, Clara felt a palpable tension in the air, as if the town itself was holding its breath. She returned to the forest, to the clearing where she had encountered the woman in white, a copy of her article in hand. As midnight approached, the familiar chill enveloped her, and the mist began to form. The figure of the woman in white appeared, more distinct than ever before. Clara stepped forward, her voice steady as she spoke the truth she had uncovered, the story of Eliza's life, her love, and the injustice that had led to her death. The spirit listened, her presence less foreboding than before, a silent witness to her own vindication. When Clara finished, there was a moment of profound silence, a sense of completion that filled the clearing. Then the woman in white spoke, her voice a gentle whisper that seemed to carry the weight of a century's sorrow. "Thank you," she said before fading into the night, the mist dissipating with her departure. In the days that followed, Clara's article was published, stirring a mix of shock, disbelief, and finally, acceptance among the town's residents. The legend of the woman in white, now grounded in truth, took on a new meaning. It became a story of love, loss, and the power of truth to heal the wounds of the past. Clara felt a sense of peace she hadn't known since her investigation began. The haunting ceased, and the town, once overshadowed by the legend, began to move forward, the curse lifted by the acknowledgement of its sins. But the story of the woman in white was not over. Clara had given her a voice, but it was up to the town to remember and honor her memory. The legend would live on, not as a tale of horror, but as a reminder of the consequences of injustice and the redemptive power of truth. In the wake of Clara's revelations, the town found itself at a crossroads. The publication of her article had not only unveiled the truth behind the legend of the woman in white, but also exposed the town to its own buried guilt. While many embraced the opportunity for reconciliation, others found themselves unable to face the sins of their ancestors, leading to a division that ran deep through the heart of the community. Clara, meanwhile, found that her encounter with the woman in white had left an indelible mark on her. The spirit's parting words, "Thank you," echoed in her dreams, a bittersweet reminder of the unresolved pain that still lingered. Despite the peace she had helped to broker, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that her work was not yet done. The hauntings, contrary to her hopes, did not cease. Instead, they took on a new form, more personal and intense. Objects in her home moved with increasing frequency. Her name whispered in the wind, and visions of the woman in white appeared not just at the edge of the forest, but in the very heart of the town. It was as if the spirit, freed from the chains of her past, sought to make her presence known to all, a guardian watching over the town she had once called home. Clara realized that the woman in white's story was not one of vengeance, but of vigilance. The spirit's appearances, once thought to be harbingers of doom, were now understood as reminders of the fragile peace that had been achieved. The hauntings served as a call to the townsfolk to remember, to acknowledge the past, and to work towards a future where such injustices would never be repeated. Determined to help her community heal, Clara organized a series of town hall meetings. She shared her experiences, the truth about Eliza and the curse, and the importance of confronting and accepting the past. Slowly the town began to come together, shared stories of the woman in white, transforming from tales of fear to lessons of history and morality. However, the path to reconciliation was fraught with challenges. Skeptics and naysayers, unwilling to confront the truth, stirred dissent, claiming the hauntings were hoaxes or delusions. Clara faced opposition, her credibility questioned, her motives scrutinized. But with every manifestation of the woman in white, with every unexplainable event that could only be attributed to her presence, the tide of public opinion began to shift. As the town worked to heal its divisions, Clara embarked on a personal journey to understand the deeper message the woman in white sought to convey. She revisited the clearing in the forest, the site of their first encounter, time and time again, seeking guidance and insight. It was during one such visit, under the light of a full moon, that Clara experienced a vision that would change her understanding of the haunting forever. The forest around her faded away, replaced by a vivid reenactment of Eliza's last moments. Clara watched, a silent observer, as the tragedy unfolded, feeling every emotion as if it were her own. But as the vision came to its sorrowful conclusion, Clara saw not the end of Eliza's story, but the beginning of her legacy. Eliza's spirit rose from the scene of her death, her face serene, her gaze filled with compassion. She turned to Clara, and in that moment, Clara understood. The woman in white was not a specter of sorrow, but a symbol of resilience, a testament to the enduring power of love and the importance of remembering those who had been wronged. Empowered by this new understanding, Clara dedicated herself to ensuring that the story of the woman in white would not be forgotten. She worked with the town to establish a memorial for Eliza and others who had suffered similar fates, a place of reflection and remembrance. Educational programs were introduced in schools, teaching children the importance of empathy, justice, and the strength found in forgiveness. The hauntings, once a source of fear, became a part of the town's identity, a unique connection to its history. The woman in white was seen less and less, her appearances no longer a cause for alarm, but occasions for quiet contemplation. It was as if, with the town's acceptance of its past and commitment to a more just future, her spirit had found the peace it had been seeking. Years passed, and Clara's role in uncovering the truth and helping to heal her community became the stuff of local legend. The town, once known for its haunted forest and restless spirit, gained a new reputation as a place of reconciliation and renewal. Yet, the legacy of the woman in white lived on, a guardian spirit watching over the town. Clara, now regarded as a bridge between the past and the present, continued to visit the forest, the clearing where it all began. There she felt a connection, not just to Eliza, but to all those who had come before, a reminder of the cycles of history and the constant need for vigilance in the face of injustice. As the sun set on one such visit, Clara stood in the clearing, a sense of peace enveloping her. The forest was silent, save for the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind. And then, softly, almost imperceptibly, she heard it, a whisper, a thank you, carried on the breeze, a final farewell from the woman in white. In that moment, Clara knew that while the hauntings might have begun as a manifestation of pain and loss, they had transformed into something far more profound. They were a reminder of the power of truth, the importance of history, and the unbreakable bond between the past and the present. The story of the woman in white, Clara realized, was not just about a ghost haunting a small town. It was about the indomitable spirit of the human heart, the capacity for growth and change, and the endless quest for justice and understanding. It was a tale that would continue to haunt, not with fear, but with hope, a beacon for future generations to remember and to learn from. As autumn cast its golden hues over the town, the anniversary of Clara's first encounter with the woman in white approached. The town planned a vigil in the forest clearing, not as a superstitious ritual, but as a commemoration of the journey they had undertaken together. It was to be a night of remembrance, reconciliation, and hope, marking a year since Clara's article had laid bare the wounds of the past and initiated the healing process. Clara felt a mix of anticipation and solemnity as she prepared for the evening. The vigil would serve as a testament to the town's transformation and as a personal milestone in her own life. Her research and experiences had not only unveiled the truth behind a century-old legend, but had also led her on a path of self-discovery and purpose. As night fell, the townsfolk gathered at the forest's edge, each carrying a candle to light the darkness. Together, they made their way to the clearing, a silent procession bound by a shared intent to honor the memory of Eliza and all those who had suffered in silence. Clara led the way, her heart heavy with the weight of the moment but buoyed by the unity of the community. Arriving at the clearing, the group formed a circle, their candles casting a warm glow against the encroaching darkness. Clara stepped into the center, holding a lantern aloft, a beacon in the night. She spoke of Eliza's story, of the pain and the love that had defined her short life, and of the legacy that her spirit had left behind. A call to remember, to learn, and to grow. As Clara's words faded into the night, a hush fell over the gathering. Then, softly, the air began to shimmer with a light mist, the now familiar precursor to the appearance of the woman in white. But this time there was no fear, no apprehension among the crowd. They stood, a collective breath held in anticipation, as the figure of Eliza materialized before them, more serene and radiant than ever. The woman in white looked upon the faces around her, her gaze lingering on Clara with a depth of gratitude and kinship. Then, turning to encompass the entire assembly, she spoke, her voice a whisper that resonated in the heart of every listener. "Remember," she said, a single word that carried the weight of a century's sorrow and the hope for a future untainted by the mistakes of the past. With that, she faded from view, her presence receding into the night like a tide withdrawing from the shore. The vigil concluded with a moment of silence, a collective reflection on the journey that had brought them to this point. As the townsfolk made their way back through the forest, the candles they carried seemed to light not just the path before them, but also the way forward, a path of understanding, compassion, and shared humanity. Clara remained in the clearing long after the others had departed, the lantern still burning in her hand. She felt a profound sense of peace, a completion of the circle that had begun with her first step into the legend of the woman in white. Her role as the catalyst for the town's healing was fulfilled, but she knew that her connection to Eliza's spirit, to the story that had changed her life, would endure. In the days that followed the vigil, the town experienced a quiet transformation. The legend of the woman in white, once a tale of fear and superstition, had evolved into a narrative of hope and redemption. Clara's work, and the town's willingness to confront its past, had lifted the shadow that had hung over the community for generations. Clara found herself at a crossroads, her mission completed, yet feeling more connected to the town and its history than ever. She decided to remain, dedicating herself to preserving the memory of the woman in white and ensuring that the lessons learned from Eliza's story would not be forgotten. She collaborated with the town to establish a permanent memorial in the clearing, a place of contemplation and remembrance. The annual vigil became a tradition, not just for the town, but for visitors drawn by the story of the woman in white and the community that had embraced its past to create a better future. Clara continued to write, her articles and books exploring the themes of historical injustice, the power of truth, and the capacity for communities to heal. Her work gained recognition beyond the town, becoming a beacon for others grappling with their own hidden histories. The hauntings of the woman in white became a distant memory, her appearances ceasing with the town's reconciliation. Yet her legacy lived on, a reminder of the enduring impact of love and the importance of remembering those who had been lost to the shadows of history. Clara often visited the memorial in the forest, finding solace in the quietude and the sense of connection it provided. She saw her experiences not as an end, but as a beginning, a first step on a journey of exploration and understanding that would continue for the rest of her life. As years turned into decades, the legend of the woman in white and the story of Clara's journey with the town became intertwined, a shared history that spoke to the heart of the human experience. It was a testament to the idea that even the deepest wounds could heal, that understanding and compassion could bridge the divide between past and present, and that the spirits we carry with us are not just those of the departed, but of the love, the pain, and the hope that define our collective journey. Clara's legacy, like that of the woman in white, became a part of the town's identity, a narrative thread woven into the fabric of the community. It was a story that would be told and retold, each telling a reminder of the power of one person to effect change, the importance of facing the truth, no matter how painful, and the capacity of the human spirit to transcend the boundaries of time and death in the quest for justice and redemption. And so, the story of the woman in white, Clara, and the town that had come to terms with its past, concluded not with an ending, but with an invitation to remember, to learn, and to continue the journey forward, together.